Jones and Trippy True Crime.
Using her when they should be helping. Oh, I agree 100%. First of all, I am not an Ashley Banfield fan. I'm not. Ashley Banfield, call me right now and say, hey, we need you on our news. Can you give me an interview? No, I will not. If it's Ashley, I will absolutely refuse to speak with her at all. I do not like that lady. I have no respect for that lady. None. The only person from News Nation I would ever consider interviewing with would be Brian Enton. He's the only person that I know. He's the only person I trust. I don't need that kind of attention to myself. What does Turquoise say? He don't like you? Well, that's kind of funny. For somebody that doesn't like me, he sure has my cell phone number and I have his. Nobody else can say that in here. I don't think anybody else can say that on YouTube unless they're a big channel. I'm not even a big channel. I just grew up with him, right? We were out in front of the Gabby Petito thing. I like him. I respect him. Every time I see him, he says hi. We sit and chit chat whenever we have an opportunity. Unless you know him personally, I would say that you don't have the receipts to back up your statement there, Turquoise. Very insulting that this attorney representing one of the victims' moms, knowing that this is the situation, and they could have easily explained the situation to the court and got leniency for her, but it wasn't a big enough case for Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor is excited. I mean, let's be honest. She's excited to represent Brian Koberger because this is a national and worldwide news story. Kara, not so much. Brian Koberger, he's her ace in the hole, right? For fame, notoriety, she's worked her whole life for this moment right here. And she ended up cutting one client off to represent another. And people are saying, does that pose a conflict of interest? Depending on where she was in Kara's case, yes, it could. It could very much. And I'm surprised that's not being looked into more. And I really do believe that the judge needs to rule on something as to whether she can represent Brian Koberger. Did she get an unfair or undue advantage by representing Kara? We're assuming that she took the job for Brian. She may have been assigned. She was assigned by the judge. I heard him ask her to step up. But at that point, she should have said, I'm already representing one of the victim's family members. This may pose a conflict of interest. She didn't say that at all. She was already filing motions on his behalf. She should have known. She should have acknowledged it. And it seems like to me that her letter didn't come right away to Kara. It was like weeks or months later that she finally sent a letter to her advising her she can no longer represent her. A few lawyers are qualified to handle death penalty cases. Yeah, but that's it doesn't matter whether they're qualified. See, here in Florida, if we had something like this arise, they would use outside counsel. There is, like with our bar, attorneys are required, if they're called for this type of duty to take it out, they're required to be paid. Now, they're not required to be paid their normal fee, but they are required to do this. And so sometimes they actually have to go out to local counsel as opposed to the public defender's office. And I'm thinking that me out there with a bullhorn in front of her office, might be what takes her over that fence, because she needs to be off this case, in my opinion. I don't think she should be representing. I just think it's in poor taste. And talk about something heartless. Like, how in the heck do you do that to a family suffering? Like, because she didn't care. She cares about her reputation. She cares because she's going to be in the spotlight. This is what this woman cares about. I'm sorry. Sorry, Charlie. You should have done it the right way. You chose to do it the wrong way. You need to be off this case. I feel like I need to be in front of Ann Taylor's office protesting what she did to Xana's family. Primarily her mother. Ann Taylor was her attorney. And Ann Taylor decided that her case wasn't going to give her as much notoriety as, say, Brian Koberger. So she basically fired Kara Kernodle and took up Brian Koberger's case. I've got a problem with that. People are talking about conflict of interest. Now, that conflict of interest could exist, but it may not. She may be very lawful in doing this, depending on how far into Kara's case she was, what kind of conversation she had, whether it gives her an unfair advantage for Brian Koberger's defense. There are some things that could, make this actually a problem. But there are some things that it's just in poor taste, right? So we don't know the facts, at least for me. I hear News Nation, I hear all these talking heads that seem a little more probably in line or in tune, but I'm sorry, they could be wrong. There is this perceived conflict of interest, but really isn't. I'm not going to put my name on saying it is truly a conflict of interest, according to the law. Each state has different laws, but we're going to back up just a little bit. It's definitely a problem for me. I'm not sure, again, I still don't know if it poses or meets the criteria of conflict of interest, but having several parents being represented at one time for drug charges and you're representing the murderer of their child, I don't know, I got a problem with that. I got a big problem with that. So I don't know what we're going to do. But we may want to consider doing something. I'm not sure what, but I am about injustice, and this just seems to me to be adding insult to injury. Like, how do you trust the public defender's office when they left you high and dry to go represent the murderer of your child? She is one of 13 in the state and the only one in the area that is qualified. Well, Mel, I have a hard time taking any of your, because there's been 3 statements that you've made, 2 of them that I completely 100% have information that are contradictory statements. So when you say this, it makes me have to look into it. I don't like you've already made some statements that are untrue, at least to me, from my perspective, so it makes me question everything you say from that point forward. How do you know this? Because I'm like, coming into my chat, I get on my different perspective, but you're speaking fact, nothing fact. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily true. 1 of 13 in the state that is qualified, I don't necessarily believe that's true. There is definitely one qualified person in the DA's office to get for investigation. Even if she's second chair, she needs to train. I don't believe that. These attorneys, they want interviews, interviews with, the police and the chief of police and stuff like that for future cases. I don't care. I don't care about stepping on something. I don't care. That's my job. I'm looking for the truth. I'm looking for everything I'm entitled to have to bring to my audience. And that's what it comes down to. If I'm entitled to that information, I want that information on my desk. Talking about it, the state attorney's talking about it. I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in violence at all. I don't believe that police should be violent with cooperating people. It's hard for me to believe that officers wake up in the morning, put on their clothes, put on their badge, and say, I want to see who I can beat the crap out of today. I just don't see that. It just doesn't seem to ring true for me. So it makes me wonder what other circumstances happen to get this result. And I'm not putting blame on the victim. I'm not putting blame on law enforcement. Not at this point. I don't even care what the state attorney says. I don't care. I want to see it, touch it, and feel it with my own eyes. I want to know how we got to the point where apparently I would assume this person was unarmed, got the crap beat out of him so much so that he died. What are the real allegations? Because here's what I know. I've watched some of these cases unfold. And what we did find out is that a kid was running, was shooting at officers. Dropped the gun. They didn't realize he didn't have the gun anymore. And he was standing, and they ended up just unloading their guns on him. Because quite frankly, in my mind, if you're stupid enough to point a gun at law enforcement, you're stupid enough to get shot a lot of times. And I'm not going to lose sleep over that. I don't know what caused that to happen, and I know that there was protest. That's to the extent of my knowledge with this Nichols case. I have no information. I haven't heard the police side. I haven't heard the victim side. I haven't heard any of it. I know that this day and age, body cam footage is worn. I'm interested in finding that. But I would like to know a little more about this case. But I'm not one of those people that have knee-jerk reactions. I'm not going to be out there protesting without all the facts. I need to have facts in order to make sure that I'm right in what I'm doing. I would never want to be out there protesting because I think something happened. I have to know. I got there for 2 weeks, never protest. We were just talking into a camera about the case, about all the facts that we were able to find while we were on the ground there. It wasn't until the injustice was happening, until Chief Hadley had plenty of time to put cuffs on her and refused to do so. And as the weeks were progressing, I was getting a little more frustrated about that, and so started flexing my own muscle until we were having issues with challenging the police chief and the county commission that put him in place. We're going to deal with it, okay? Let them deal with whatever they're going to deal with. I've had to do it myself. There's no point in arguing with them. Just follow commands so everybody's safe. If you got to get arrested, get bonded out, and deal with it in the court system. Like this, just think about it. He would have been going to jail right now, or in jail, and have a hearing. He'd have been out on bond, he'd have been alive, and then he could have challenged all these things in court, but he'd still be alive. Instead, he decides to run from law enforcement. You can't do that. That means to law enforcement, that's a red flag that you're hiding something. Drugs, guns, all those types of things. And they don't know if they're going to go around the corner and you start shooting them. So, did they let their, it's just sad. I wish people would understand you're not going to run from law enforcement. You might as well just, if you're getting arrested, you might as well just get arrested and arrive alive. Really. That's what the court system's for. This whole thing, if he would have just gotten arrested instead of running from him, 1, he would still be alive, and 2, his case would have probably been thrown out because they didn't have sufficient evidence for whatever they needed to arrest him for. And now he's dead because he didn't want to get arrested. It's just sad all the way around. It's sad all the way around. But I'm not just law enforcement did stuff they should not have done. Like, there's no reason. If somebody is cooperating and is on the ground, there is no reason to be beating on that person, period. There's no reason to lay a hand on them. I've seen officers, kind of rough people up, slam them against the car as they're arresting them, grip down on the freaking handcuffs until their hands are turning purple. I've seen stuff like that. I'd like to reserve commentary on this case until I have an opportunity to get educated, because you can imagine with a case like this, I've got to be very cautious with what I say because I don't want to be inaccurate. You're talking about a man that lost his life at the hands of police. So I've got to be very cautious with what I say and how I say it. I've got to be very cautious with what I say and how I say it, and I want to be very factual, especially in a case like this. So send me what you guys can over to the Bullhorn Betty channel, and let me review it, and then we'll have more of a discussion when I'm kind of brought up to speed on what happened, so I know how to field questions and information like that. As for that, I'll have to review that in my own, because I'm going to have to go back and forth with it several times. I want to get a good lay of the land on that, so thank you for sending that. And any other information that is pertaining to what's his name, Tyrese? Is it am I saying it right? I can't. I've already lost his name. Wrong about what? I have not. Wrong about what? What am I wrong about? Like, if you're gonna say I'm wrong about that, express what I'm wrong about. If you're talking about Tyree, I said I'm not making any statement on it. I'm giving examples of stuff. I have not researched the case. Like, open your ears, please. Everybody else in the chat room gets it, but you. I don't know what the problem is. It was murder. The one cop said they catch him, and I hope They stop him down. Wow, that's pretty brutal. But again, I haven't seen it. This is all the stuff you guys are telling me. Send me the stuff so I can review it for myself. I have to make the, listen, just, you guys have all seen it. You guys have made your determination. Let me know mine. Send me the stuff so I can make it. You know, I need to see it. I'm not going to take your word for it. I need to see it, touch it, and feel it. I need to make my own, you know, I'm one of those people. That's why I travel everywhere, because I hate getting other people's opinion. I like formulating my own. And I can't be wrong, Miss ET. There's no way I can be wrong. I never made a factual statement. Enough evidence to have them removed from that home. The parents should be charged. This is not just for Don Wells' case. This is my stance, literally across the board, because I'm so sick of hearing the Department of Children and Family Services take these children away indefinitely. Indefinitely. Yet they have not one charge against them to justify them taking a child away from that parent. If the Department of Children and Family Services has enough to remove a child from a home, they better have enough to charge those parents with a crime to justify removing a child from that home. This idea that they can just go into any home, remove a child, no charges, where's the due process? If you have enough to remove a child from the home, I'm sorry, a social worker should not be in charge in running that investigation. That is a criminal investigation. A social worker is not equipped to handle a criminal investigation. Where's law enforcement? Where's the criminal investigation? I agree with Don Wells here that they have no child abuse charges against them, and they have 3 children removed from their house. Either give those children back to Don and Candace, or charge them with the crimes that were able to get those children removed from that home. That is the choice that these courts should have to be faced with. And if we need to start going and changing those laws, then we will. Because I'll be darned if you're going to go into any home and take a child from a home saying that it's unfit, unsafe, and they're not being cared for. Those are criminal conduct. That's criminal activity, and the parents should be charged. You don't get to take the children and not charge the parents. It's one or the other. Keep the children there and don't charge the parents, or remove those children and charge the parents. I'm not sticking up, nor do I want these boys back in Don Wells. What I want to see happen is that them be charged with the crimes that they should be charged with. That's what I'd like to see.